All right, Baku, not a place that I think is as tricky as they tell you. Like this first sector, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, drive in, brake, turn in, use all the track on exit. Really just three or four straight simple forward turns. This is just a nice little rhythm section we're in now. The last section does have a couple of corners that as you come right before you would make your turn, you have to like turn the opposite way. So for instance, we're coming into a right, you should be turning left. I would have if I wasn't overtaking Botas. So I'll go over a couple of tricky spots and a few special things as we go now.
All right, let's get to the turn by turn of Baku. Just out of screen to the right is the 150. I don't know is due to the curb that there is really a necessity to put your right-hand tires over that white line. But you want to, this is a very long braking zone. It's at the end of the longest straight in the game. You're going to need to brake straight for a pretty long time. When you come to about this point, you can start to see the tire rubber making the turn to the left. You definitely want to be turning, I think, on the later half of that. So about, you can see my wheel on the bottom of the screen just starting to make its cuts. And it's pretty just simple. Get to the inside curb, open up the wheel, track out. And I say track out over this curb. Remember, FIA track limits is that you have to have two tires on the track at all times. And you may notice that two tires are, in fact, within the white verge line. Now, one thing special about this curb is that don't try to cross back over it onto the track. As you may notice, there's just a little thin path right there that you can let the right half tire stay out, and the curb will almost like keep the tire out there for you. You see I have just a little bit of wheel in the car, and that curb will almost like hold the tire out, and just wait until you pass the curb and then bring the car back onto the track, or even not even bring it back onto the track, because you can still leave your right-hand tires on the white verge line. I will say my next braking zone, there's an opening in the wall I index off of. Depending on fuel load, how well I got off the last turn, I either brake towards the beginning or middle of this. I don't think I ever really make it to the 50. And what's hard to see at the edge of this, coming into the sunlight, there is a curb on the right-hand side, red and white curb, and that's where I index my turn mark off of. Bring the car to the inside, get to the curb, track out, put two wheels back over the verge line, and you want to make sure the wheel is nice and straight just before you get to the DRS zone, especially as in this case of the lap, it's opening up. You don't want to have wheel in the car and then open up the DRS. So coming down the end of the straight, there's two of these Emirates bridges. You want to index off those just to make sure you don't get lost. I would say the brake marker is about the 125 here. Basically just zip past the 150 and then hit the brakes pretty hard. Stay straight. It's another very slow turn. Just keep the wheel nice and straight for a long time. Turn in. I don't really have a great turn in marker to give you. Just once you can kind of start seeing some around the corner, turn in, get to the curb. I don't think there's a great need to necessarily get on that curb. It'll kind of pop the car up and just track out again. I mean, you've heard that a lot for these first three turns. I index off the 50 for the next board, get the car back to the left as you come to it, and I brake just before the 50. You notice I'm already got a lot of brake in the car, and I carry that braking just past the 50. It's just kind of a rhythm and timing thing for me. There again, just bring it to the inside curb, track out, put two tires over the verge line. I mean, we've said that about a couple of turns now. We're coming to the next turn. This one's a little bit tricky because there's a 150, a 100, and a 50, and you really don't need them. I'd say you need to brake around the 80 to 90. The only marker you need is that 50, in my opinion. Just index off of that, maybe the 100, just so you zip past, hit the brakes hard. You're going to go down to third gear, and there is a curve ahead that Perez is just beside, and that's going to be your index for your turn-in marker. You're going to turn in, get on the curb, and this time you're going to have to hold track left. All the corners up to this point, it's just been a simple stay out wide, turn into the apex, track out to the exit. This time you're going to want to hold track left momentarily to set up this right-hand turn. There is a lane as well that you can follow. This is very, very difficult to see. I probably turned 25 laps before I even saw this. But if you can follow that lane right there, you're going to be in great shape. Launching it down the straightaway, there's a couple of markers you can try to use to not get lost, but this is another one of them spots. I don't really like the markers because it's like basically past the 100 and then brake. And this is one of the two tricky corners here in regards to you have to like turn the opposite way of where you want to go to widen the radius. And I'll show you what I mean here. If you notice past the 50, there's a curb that picks up, and in the track, you can almost see there's an opening to the left. This is me going into my turn-in marker, and notice the wheel is just a little bit turned to the left. So I'm kind of doing that to open up my radius. So just at the very last, and it's not held left for very long, just hold it to the left and then make a hard, sharp cut right. Look at the track map. This is a very sharp right-hander. I say 2 tires on the curb. This curb is usable, but you notice I still have 2 tires on the verge line. This is really cutting it close on track limits, though. If you're strict, this might catch you, might not. I've driven on strict, and every corner is a little different. But 2 tires on this curb is fine. I don't even know is that 2 tires on the curb is like 100% necessary. But then it's just a traditional track out and keep the car kind of pointed diagonally across the track, and you're going to index off of this 50 board again. This is your next braking zone and one of the most treacherous turns in the game. If you're too wide here, you're just wrong. I'm sorry. You're going to make both of you nearly stop if you're too wide. Probably, honestly, one of the worst turns in the game, in all of F1 in reality. But what you want to do here is just index off the 50. You're going to brake a bit before 50. And your turn-in is going to be based on this yellow Pirelli board up here. Once you see that, you're going to want to kind of go for it and start your turn-in. And then where you want to end up is kind of bisecting over top of that curb. And I don't care if you're strict track limits or regular, you've got to drive on that curb. 100%, absolutely, you have to put 2 tires over that curb. As you can see, if you tried to make that left-right, you're going to be 20 miles an hour slower. And then 2 tires on that curb. You can kiss this curb with the right hand, bump that. Left-hand tires are going to be going just past this guardrail. It is a 1-lane wide section of track. And then once you come around the right at the top of the hill, there's never really a moment I can get full throttle there without traction control. Hold track right for just a moment. And this becomes very much a rhythm and feel section of track. Turn left. I don't think you even need to get totally on those curbs. And then there again, just go out to the curbs or even 2 wheels over the line and you're fine. Then there's kind of a wiggling straightaway. We're going to be looking for this 100. Once we see the 100, I'm going to brake about even with it. And this is another one of those spots, if you notice, as you look ahead, you want to be looking at how the track kind of turns right and then makes a left. Thank you, Herman Tilke, for screwing up brake zones since, 20 years or so now. And you notice here, I'm going into the brake zone, and my wheel is turning just a little bit right. And then once I can kind of see a nice path down the hill, I'm going to cut hard left. Sometimes I hit that curb. I don't say it's necessary to totally get on that curb. And then I'm going to track out. I'll be 2 wheels over momentarily. This is about even with the 100 marker. Somewhere just around the 100 to 75 is where you're going to want to brake coming into this last sharp left-hander. And you're going to want to start your right turn just before or right as you get to that right-hand curb. Bring it into the left-hand curb. You can go 2 wheels over the right-hand curb on exit, like so. And there again, if you're on this trajectory, perfect. Just keep it nice and straight and come off. There's this little left and right wiggle that I want to comment on because it changes based on the time of the race. If you're running a little bit more downforce, in nearly any situation, you can just go full throttle through here. But the fast way around this track with all these straightaways is to take a lot of downforce off the car, in my opinion. And another thing is that once you have that full fuel load at the beginning of the race, you might have to crack the throttle. Now, in this particular instance, I'm full throttle, but I might crack the throttle partway through. And all these images on full throttle, I probably should have hunted to find one where I'm part throttle. I'm somewhere along here, and as early as possible, you would have to just breathe the throttle. I mean, if you can breathe it before you even make that left and then go wide open around the left and right, that's going to be fast. If you have to make a lift coming onto the longest straightaway in the game in all of F1, you are going to be slower all the way down that straightaway, all the way to the finish line, and you are going to be a sitting duck if there is a car behind you. Bring it in nice and tight to the curb. Beware of a wiggle coming on the exit. And if the car does wiggle, basically just point it where you want to go, keep the throttle down, and just cross your fingers and hope. I mean, it's a developed skill catching a car, but you don't want to make any drastic, too drastic motions here because the car is not going to wiggle that bad. Just try to keep the wheel pointed down the straightaway as much as you can. And that's it. That's the video. Hope you enjoyed it.
to the car ahead is 2.9 seconds. Let's use overtake and burn some of this energy.